Salutations, everybody. It is Matty here today. I hope you're all doing absolutely excellent. Today, we're talking about what we once thought was the unthinkable when we saw that invite system in a Dark Souls game many years ago, and that's a From Software multiplayer game. Scary thought, but after playing the network test, I went, hey man, this system's ancient, but it kind of works. Then they announced Duskbloods, and it's like, okay, how much multiplayer are we doing here? But we originally thought that Nightreign would be the tweener game between Elden Ring and whatever big thing they're doing next. But nonetheless, it's coming in at the right price tag of $40. I've been playing it on PS5 for about the last week, on and off. I haven't fully completed the game. I don't even know if there's an end, but I wanted to just give some impressions here today because I feel like there's a lot of question marks, understandably so, about this game. It's just very different from anything From Software has done before. Now, leaving the network test, when I played that and did my early access impressions on that, I was very positive on it. And the same thing is basically the case here, except I have actually more depth and context and thoughts to offer now that I've played a lot of the full game. So I just want to throw all of that your way here today. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're new here and you're into day one reviews, impressions, all that stuff, we just talked about Tainted Grail, Fall of Avalon. You can check that out. That's more of the Mr. Matty speed, but we want to include those big releases like Nightreign as well. So consider subscribing. For those who have not paid attention to Nightreign and maybe you're just scrolling through your YouTube sub feed or you found this in the recommendations, you're like, oh yeah, that's out today. What was that again? Here's the concept. Elden Ring Nightreign drops you in a big open map. It's a random spot each time, and you have to survive multiple nights. Now, as you're running through this map, the fire around you is going to shrink. It's got that little bit of battle royale urgency, but that's really where the comparisons stop. It's a PvE game where up to 3 friends can team up, so you're going to run through this map and kill. Now, normally in a From Software game, you're going to approach things more methodically, slowly, take in the view even, smell the roses a bit, retry that boss a million times over. This is very different. In this game, it expects mastery on the fly, and I think for From Software veterans, it provides a very interesting challenge and approach where, again, you're usually tackling things in a very methodical way. In this game, rushes you between the fire and the desire to level up, get good gear. As you're killing these enemies, they're going to drop some of the best weapons that you need to take on the final boss of each expedition. Even things like leveling up have been very much streamlined in this game into character classes, which I'll talk about a little bit later. But when you sit down at that bonfire, you're not even sitting. You're just going to jump in there, press A, jump your level up. It's going to automatically scale all of your stats according to the character you're playing as, and that's it. So it's a very much a rush type of game. So if you like the slower pace, the more methodical nature, as I said before, of a From Software game, that's absent here, and you're just not going to get it at all. You're always going to be going, even to the point where they added a new level of sprinting. You have your normal hold the B button or hold the circle button to sprint, and then you have the next level sprint that really has you booking it across the map. So as you're rushing everywhere, killing everything from small mob enemies to mini bosses and whatnot, you're going to get those runes, you're going to level up, you're going to get good gear, you're also going to get items that you'll use probably way more than you ever used in Elden Ring. Even just putting poison on your weapon just feels very effective in this game. Also, it should be known, death is not the end. So this makes it a lot more of, I think, an accessible From Software title. You get a lot of the things that you'd expect with a From Software title, where death is still, in this case, dumbed down, but it is punishing enough, and I'll get into that in a moment. But also, being able to team up with friends and just learn the game together will make this a little bit more accessible. But when you die, as you're pushing towards those final bosses of the day, you'll be able to respawn. You still have to go pick up your runes. You will lose a level, and trust me when I say, if you have what happened to me, and I died with 140k runes and lost a level, and I couldn't pick all of that back up because the fire ring started to shrink, it will definitely kill your run. You will be the anvil on the team. So death does have punishment, but I guess if you die at the right times and in the right places, it's not the end of the world. Still, I think this has a little bit of give because it's not like in traditional FromSoft games where if you die, it's dang, man, I got to get that back ASAP, and you feel that pressure. I think because it's a multiplayer environment, if you're playing with friends, for those, again, who have been running scared from Software games, I get it. This will be, I think, a way to ease you into that process. At the end of the night, as I've said multiple times now, you will fight a legitimate boss. Some of them spawning multiple enemies at a time. This is something that I don't think I remember from the network test, but when you arrive to the area that big boss is going to spawn, these very spongy enemies are going to attack you that sort of warm you up and get you into boss mode. That is the game's answer to a lot of the multiplayer concerns is they kind of just beef up the health pool for a lot of these enemies. And I can't lie, it doesn't feel good every time. There's some bosses I'll specify that do feel good, that were tweaked from the network test. And there are some bosses that I think don't feel great. Because like one of the bosses I'll highlight from the network test is the Tree Sentinel. This thing was stronger than any boss in the network test. It had so much health, it had so much power, and then it got tuned down properly for the full release. He's actually killable now, as are the cavalrymen alongside the Tree Sentinel. They're actually all killable now. It's a really fun, enjoyable co-op boss where everyone kind of like fights against one enemy on a horseback at a time and tries to hold their own. It's like really tense and fun. But then there's other enemies that I'll fight against where I'm like, holy smokes, your health pool, like the Wisdom of Night, one of the final bosses for an expedition, this thing is ridiculous. And the idea is you have to like kill this butterfly in the air, but it's just like if you are grounded and you did not know that this was going to be a boss like this, and so you're like me who is a raider, good luck hitting that thing. Still, these are the bosses that you're going to fight at the end of each night. And then once you've done that twice over, you'll fight the boss that you've gone out on the expedition for. So if you want to jump all the way back to the beginning, there'll be a menu of expeditions you can select, and each one describes a creature that you're going to basically be hunting down. Once you beat it, you'll get a thing called relic rights. These are relics that you can equip to each of your characters, and each character is color specific. So like some characters can only equip like blue and red relics. Some can equip green and orange relics, and so on. These relics aren't always going to be super helpful. Like the first round of relics I got when I was playing as the Iron Eye, who is an archer class for those who don't know, gave me a bunch of like magic +4 and FP gain. And I'm just like, yeah, this isn't like bad. This just isn't for the class I'm using. Still, these relics are earned whether you complete a run or fail a run. You're still going to get some rewards. So some of your effort is still compensated. You can also spend some currency on additional relics if you'd like. But the main thing that I noticed that was not in the network test that I thought was really cool in the full game is called the Shifting Earth phenomena. So depending on who you beat and how you approach it, for the next few days in your game, the world is going to shift. So this kind of counters one of my mild disappointments of the game, which is, at least in the first set of bosses that I have fought in Elden Ring Nightreign, again, have not finished the game, this map is the same each time throughout. But what they've done in a sort of very Elden Ring way is they've created a layered map. So, for example, there was an eruption, and at one point when I was running around as the raider, I see like this giant explosion of lava in the distance. I'm like, what is that? And eventually we got to investigate it, and there's a huge crack in the earth which leads down deep into this like volcanic area where there were like secret bosses and loot here, and it changed where like the boss would spawn. So this is the variety of the map. Instead of making a ton of different maps, like reusing parts of the core game of Elden Ring, instead what they have done here is they've just decided to break up this actual core map in interesting ways depending on like how you defeat certain bosses. I don't think it'll be the perfect answer for everyone, but it is different, to be fair. Like I thought they were just going to have maps per expeditions, and that's not the case here. So it is different. Long tail, how this hangs for people, I think a lot of that is to be decided. Same thing with balancing challenges. Like I mentioned with how some bosses are still spongy, some aren't. You could see where the tweaking came in from the network test, and how I think feedback will really help From Software in this department. Because again, I don't think they nailed everything perfectly on that front, and I don't know if the Shifting Earth is going to be a big enough change for players where they're going to go, oh yeah, like this is exactly what I needed, instead of new maps that challenge me to explore and learn new loot locations and new flask locations and learn new mini boss locations. That sort of approach is not going to differentiate a lot in my experience with the Shifting Earth phenomena. What I do love though is that this game is a testament to what I think is great game design. And I don't mean that in like a hoity-toity game dev way, like, wow, fundamentally this game is fantastic. Like, it's more so just that this game embraces the fun factor in I think a really cool way. Like, okay, we have a rabid fan base that absolutely adores creating their own classes, creating their own characters, skill building, and if you take that away, you do take away, I think, some of the fun elements of playing a From Software game. So how do you make that fun? Well, you really lean into these classes by giving them each their own passive ability, character skill, and an ultimate ability. For example, the Iron Eye can see items from a distance. They can also mark enemies with like a dagger dash, which gives them a little bit of flexibility up close. And when you mark them, they take weak spot damage. And then they have a great ult that can just knock back a huge boss or wipe out a ton of enemies. Like Iron Eye, low key, is a class that I think cooks. The Executioner can deflect, so it's almost like a Sekiro class. You have the Raider, who can take damage, which makes him more difficult to knock down. He can also pummel his enemies and kind of clap back twice as hard. And he can summon a giant tombstone in the middle of fights. And so that's where I think the character depth and the creative combos and the communication and like what that can kind of spawn in these matches is where Elden Ring Nightreign will either thrive or fail in the public environment. That's the one thing is why I sometimes hesitate to do full reviews of these types of games, because I feel like so much of it is up to you more than me. That's why I wanted to go with impressions here, because I'm like, I feel at the end of the day, this is just going to be shaped by the community either way. So like, I don't know if a giant tombstone is actually going to end up being useful. Like I was awful with the Raider. Awful, which I think speaks to the good class design, because I felt good with the Iron Eye. I felt good with the Executioner kind of leading the charge, being that powerhouse. Like those classes felt good. Maybe for you, the Raider feels good because I'm not using them properly. I also think for certain expeditions, as I alluded to earlier with Noster, Wisdom of the Night, some classes are going to be really good for particular expeditions. Like you probably want to have an Iron Eye with you for that boss to kind of chip away at the flying butterfly in the sky, while two others handle the lizard on the ground. So there is a lot of depth in communication, and I played all of this without comms, and we got around pretty well with the map markers and just sort of player body language, I guess, to sort of suggest where we're going. I think the game has a good hook on that, where those of you without a headset will be okay, but I'll warn you with this. As I experienced in the network test versus playing on my own, this game's a million times better when you are playing it with friends. The communication, the comps, the building together, I think all that teamwork is really what makes Nightreign click. That's where it's a tougher sell for some, because we are talking about a paid-for multiplayer game. And now you have to not only convince yourself to buy it for $40, which I think is a great price tag for this thing, but you also have to convince multiple other friends, at least 2 others, to pick this thing up with you. I think for the amount of character classes, the dynamic gameplay, also their first attempt at multiplayer, I think for the boss fights, the spectacle, some of the cutscenes are even raw in this game. Like, I do feel right now it's really pushing toward a positive direction for that price of admission, but I also get that this is one of those situations where I think seeing streamers playing it live, watching that sort of co-op approach and like what it does for you and your friend group is going to differ from group to group. But I would just definitely recommend, if you are trying to fly solo and, hey, I'm not a big From Software fan, should I get into this one as my first From Software game? No, I got a million other to recommend to you. But if you are a From Software veteran and you're like, I want something a little bit different, I want something I can kind of pick up, play, put down whenever, and my friends can play, this is a great option. I think for a lot of From Software fans, just the way they've designed this game has managed to sort of keep a lot of what makes the FromSoft games special while embracing the fun, dynamic nature of a multiplayer game. And again, that's thanks to the character combos of classes and bosses and some of the surprise bosses. There's a new one that is in this game, and no, I am not talking about Margit. I am talking about another new gank boss, we'll call it, that has showed up, and there's like one stretch in this gameplay where we get wiped out so many times by this thing. He is so spongy. And again, that goes down to balancing. I'm like, that doesn't feel good. So yeah, it's got a couple of rough spots around the edges, but between the shifting earth, the relic rights, the character classes, the fun, dynamic nature of the game, I do think it's a good time thus far. But I think your mileage will vary depending on who you are. For me, it never really got the hooks in me so deeply that I was like, yeah, man, I'm like getting pulled away from my single player stuff. Like I very freely hopped off this one to go play Tainted Grail and to go play TMNT Tactical Takedown. Like I've been playing a lot of things while playing this. And if that sounds appealing to you as sort of a, what I call a pit stop game, then this would be a great pickup for you. So those are my thoughts on Elden Ring Nightreign. Overall, pretty good time. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. Fire away. Other than that, I will catch all of you in the next video. Stay sexy, stay active. I love you all. Peace.